FBA fails to deliver. Is the Prime promise broken? Amazon Prime and FBA are showing signs of breaking. Is it a cold or is it a long-term disease? We'll find out. We're seeing a number of programs where no one appears to be minding the store. Welcome to the Day 2 podcast. I'm your host, Jason Boyce, founder and CEO of Avenue 7 Media and co-author of the Amazon Jungle. I'm very excited for our guest today. Malia Kim is here. Malia helped write many of the protocols that identified listing violators so that Amazon enforcement teams could take bad listings, bad accounts, and bad actors down while an employee at Amazon. Now she's on the side of good, fighting for sellers, brands, and vendors every day as Avenue 7's Director of Presence. I feel like we need the voice of God when we say that, Malia. Malia, how are you doing today? It's great to see you.
Hi, great to be here. Fighting a little bit of a cold myself as well as with Amazon on the daily, but doing good.
How's the weather in Hawaii today?
Hawaii is very good. It's a melting 80-something degrees outside. I don't keep track anymore. It's just hot.
Well, Malia, I'm excited about today's episode. I have mixed feelings about today's episode. Andy Jassy came out recently with his second official annual shareholders letter, and some of the comments specifically about FBA caught my eye. And I'm going to read these highlights, and then I want to get your take on it. So he started by talking about, hey, Amazon's been through a lot of problems in the macro environment. He talks about the dot-com bust, where at that point, they streamlined costs, yet still prioritize the long-term customer experience and business we were trying to build. And then in the '08 crisis, he goes on to say, we took several actions to manage the cost structure and efficiency of our store's business. Fast forwards to last year in 2022 and the beginning of this year, 2023, where he talks about 27,000 corporate layoffs. He said a critical challenge we've continued to tackle is the rising cost to serve in our store's fulfillment network, i.e. the cost to get a product from Amazon to a customer. So in my mind, he's talking about FBA and the delivery network. He goes on to say, and we've made several changes that we believe will meaningfully improve our fulfillment costs and speed of delivery. Last year, we started re-architecting our inventory placement strategy and leveraging our larger fulfillment center footprint to move from a national fulfillment network to a regionalized network model. The final comment that really stuck with me, we're on track to have our fastest Prime delivery speeds ever in 2023. Malia, one of your presence roles here is to make sure that our clients stay in stock and keep in stock. What do you think about these comments that Andy Jassy put in the annual letter? And do you agree with that last statement? We're doing these great things. We're on track to be fastest delivery speeds orders ever in 2023. What do you think?
Based on current trends that we're seeing across the multitude of our current client accounts, selling to FBA and shipping from FBA, I would say that that is not entirely accurate, or there needs to be some sort of new announcement as to what's happening and why. So in the past 5 to 6 years that I've been working in this industry, we've never had to babysit FBA orders. But in the last several months, we have been tasked to actually track these, what's happening, what are the orders, what are in the orders, and why are they pending? Again, these are all FBA orders. And the answers we're getting from Amazon is very generic. There's no solution. And in some instances, they don't even know what's happening. It's a new thing that we are manually having to track because Amazon is not calling themselves on it. There's no FBA metric similar to what we see for merchant fulfillment, where you do one little thing, you miss one little tracking, and you get dinged. Amazon is not doing that to themselves, and they're not holding themselves accountable, and they're not taking ownership. So we're having to do the digging for them.
Ouch. You're right. It's happening. And the only thing that I would say to that, Malia, is I think that the only other time in my 21 years of dealing with Amazon, and there's fewer years, of course, because FBA didn't launch back in the Stone Age when I started selling as a seller on Amazon, but it was during COVID. And I would say that FBA is starting to show COVID-like symptoms, Remember in April in 2020, when everything just sort of stopped, you couldn't send stuff in. Now, they're still allowing you to send inventory into FBA, don't get me wrong, but those delivery times, what is your team seeing that was really eye-opening? And it's like you said, we've never had to micromanage FBA before. What are you seeing that's making you and your team start to do so?
Some of the things that we're seeing across the board that has forced us to do our own monitoring and management of pushing these orders is some of the orders are in stock. They're there, but they're sitting for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And it's not because they're large in size, which we have seen historically. They're all across the board. They're all different product types, all different sizes, at all different FCs. I've tried looking at what locations they're at to see maybe it's an FC problem. There's no pinpoint on the generic thing that we're seeing for why is, pending payment verification. Well, how is it possible that all of a sudden, hundreds, close to thousands, actually in some instances, thousands of orders are pending for this reason? And again, we're digging and Amazon's not going to say like, hey, it's because we don't have the bandwidth in FBA. Maybe our payment process is not working properly. We don't know. And, quite frankly, we would like to know because we are your selling partner. These are sitting here. We're creating a negative customer experience. The customer has ordered it because they want it. They're not getting it. And a lot of these are turning into cancellations, either because the client is or the customer is, or they're going to get it if it ever does ship ever. And then they're probably going to cancel it because they probably already moved on and don't need it, or they found an alternative.
Gosh, there's so much to unpack there, Malia. I mean, you know what I thought when you brought this to my attention? First of all, it was a specific client. They sold like a liquid over-the-counter sort of foot treatment product. And they were complaining about deliveries. And when you told me they had 600 pending orders, I was like, oh my gosh, they're doing FBM fulfilled by merchant. They're going to get their account suspended because they're not delivering and shipping on time. And then you said, I think you said to me, no, Jason, these are FBA orders. And I said, impossible, no chance. That never happened. Then you're like, I'll share my screen. You showed me all these orders in FBA. And I was like, whoa, this is a problem. Turns out they're not the only ones. How many clients did you find of ours, our slate of about 100 clients, how many have you seen with this kind of pending order problem or even similar to it?
There are two buckets which we haven't gotten into. So just the FBA side, it's about 50% of the occurrence is just due to FBA. It's in stock. We don't know why it's shipping. They're just sitting in this generic pending status. And then for amount of our clients, I would say for the pending orders issue, it's about 85% of all of our clients are impacted pretty significantly by this.
Let me tell you why I know that's true. My wife, Ann, is what I like to call a Power Prime user. She is buying stuff on Prime nonstop. There isn't a day or two. It's weird for us to see 2 days where we don't have Amazon box on our doorstep. And you know what she told me this morning as we were having coffee? She goes, I'm really pissed at Amazon. I said, really? Tell me why? Because all my delivery dates keep getting pushed back. And I was like, what? I said, out of all of the orders, and let's say she's done, and we just bought a new house, right? So we're moving in. So she's bought 30, 40 orders in the last 3 weeks to a month. She said 75% of them are not being delivered tomorrow or in 2 days, like the Prime delivery promise is. If Ann's having that problem, if 80% of our clients are having pending orders, how the hell is that customer obsessed? And could this be an existential crisis that must be fixed? Or are they going to start losing Prime subscribers? Are the customers at risk of fleeing Amazon?
That's a good question. We don't even know if they are messaging. And for us, who do shop on Amazon, like I shop on Amazon because there isn't a good variety here in Hawaii. So I do rely on it as, one of the main shopping methods for myself and my household. I don't see all of the messages and I'm not checking my account to see, okay, what's the status today? What's the status today? Like I'm a full-time job with kids.
That's
I
right.
can't babysit my Prime apps or my Amazon app. So if it's going to email, it's probably going to spam. And I don't know. I'm hoping that it's going to come when it says it was going to come when I purchased it, because that is the deciding factor of why I purchased it. For me specifically in Hawaii, and I'm sure a lot of the moms and a lot of, the other customers are doing that as well, because you go to Amazon, you usually know what you want, and you buy it hoping it's going to be delivered, like you said, on that Prime badge promise.
In the example of some of those clients where the order hasn't shipped for over a month, it's a little bit like Wish back in the day, right? You'd buy something on Wish for like $3, and it took so long to deliver from China that you forgot that you would order it by the time that it arrived. That's what's happening with Prime. That's terrible. That's a terrible customer experience. And I don't know if there's causation here, but it's got to be. It can't just be correlation with what Andy Jassy is saying in his annual letter. Hey, we're going out there I got my big red pen. I'm cutting costs everywhere. Lots of costs to be cut in FBA. But what we're seeing early signs is that this is broken. FBA right now is not making the delivery promise that it was supposed to. It's affecting customers. And then, the ones that we ultimately care the most about are the sellers and the vendors that make Amazon what it is. If they're going to lose sales due to this program, it's terrible. I want to shift gears for a second to some of the cancellations that you've seen. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know someone on your team reached out and spoke to Amazon about this, and I was kind of shocked by the response from them.
So we've been reaching out actually quite often in the past month, and we've gotten a bunch of responses that are not in policy that we've learned about. One of them was that we should allow for up to 8% cancellation rate. And I believe for the late shipping as well, what we've been told is, well, it should auto cancel in 21 days. A lot of these are well surpassed that. They're at a month plus. And then for that, we're like, okay, well, why haven't, we give them a list and we're like, why haven't these hundreds of items been canceled? And I say, well, it's actually 30 days. And they're like, well, if it's not done within 30 days, just come back. And we'll cut a ticket for each single order to help you push them through. Exactly. Not scalable, not Amazon forward focused, frugality wise. Every single order, every single ticket.
So Malia, aside from FBA sellers and folks who have inventory in stock with Prime delivery failures, we're also seeing this. We had to revisit this not a new program, it's an old program called the In-Stock Head Start program. Now, I did a little homework and I vaguely remembered when this thing launched. Officially, from an Amazon press release, it came out around October of 2019. I'm going to read bits from that press release. The In-Stock Head Start program allows your temporarily out-of-stock products to be automatically available for purchase by customers when the new shipment of your products is on its way to the fulfillment center. In-Stock Head Start is available for sellers using Amazon Carrier Central, the Partnered Carrier Program, or Amazon Global Logistics, and the information used from these programs will provide your estimated in-stock dates for your products. Once Amazon is confident about the arrival date of your replenishment shipment of products, the products will become available on the platform again. I remember when this program came and I was like, awesome, this is great. You're going to do an FBA order, you're going to get your prep ready, you're going to slap the labels on it. The shipment is going to be in the Amazon Carrier Network system. Truck's going to pick it up, and now Amazon knows it's inbound. They have an estimated arrival date, so they're going to turn that listing live so you start regaining some of the rank that you lost, and they'll just extend the delivery date a little bit and say inventory is on its way in. So that was the intent of the In-Stock Head Start. It's hard for me to say it. Head Start program. But what have you seen recently in this program, Malia, that gives you cause for concern?
And like I mentioned before, we never really had to babysit the FBA orders. So the In-Stock Head Start program, to my knowledge, has probably worked or has not been needed if you kept in stock. But what we're seeing now is some of these pending orders are due to out of stock, and concerning because a lot of these items are things that the seller does not want to continue to sell or has not fulfilled in months, have discontinued. And the problem with the In-Stock Head Start program, it is a mouthful, In-Stock Head Start program,
right?
is that, is that it only allows you to enable an account level or disable. And they don't really tell or share with you, how do you turn it off for the algorithm to not take into account something that you do wish to continue? And so what we're seeing is if, for example, you do want to discontinue an item and it was something you had regularly fulfilled on, it will allow the item to oversell. And so then if you discontinue, turn off the listing, you have all these pending orders that are over what you had shipped to FBA, did not plan for, probably are not going to fulfill. And then you're kind of in a rut where you're stuck with these pending orders. We're unclear of what the messaging is to the customer, if at all. And it's just going to sit there until we watch it and then push it to cancel.
To start from the customer's perspective, Malia, I'm an Amazon shopper. I'm really excited. I trust Amazon to get me my stuff in 2 days. I see the Prime badge on the listing. I buy now or add to cart, purchase the item. I'm expecting that thing tomorrow or the next day, and it just doesn't arrive. It just doesn't arrive. Again, it goes back to the FBA failure issues. Prime is such a key pillar and component of Amazon's success. Their delivery network, their ability to deliver to the door fast, their enormous selection, and their huge customer base. I gotta say, Malia, if more and more customers are experiencing this, like my wife is, because perhaps maybe the team that used to keep an eye on this program is part of that 27,000 member layoff that Andy Jassy just did, I gotta tell you, it's gonna start to erode trust in the Prime program. That's bad for Amazon, that's bad for shoppers, it's especially bad for sellers and brands selling on the platform. So the client runs out of stock, and maybe to your point, they don't even have any intention of restocking this product. Maybe it was a dog, they're going to cut it, or maybe they're going to kill it and bring in a new version of the product or something in the future. And someone's still just there expecting this product to arrive. So does it just sit there forever? What's the cancellation process? Or is the shopper canceling it? Is Amazon canceling it? How's that cancellation process supposed to work if the product never gets restocked?
I've wasted a lot of time this past week trying to hunt down an answer from FBA. Like, what is your process? What is this program? Who can I talk to figure out, like, what is the correct way that it should be working? How do we use it correctly, right, at all angles? Because, again, they are our partner. I have found that the FBA team doesn't even know this program exists.
Oh,
I've spent hours on the phone with them trying to look up the internal wiki for the help page and then trying to phone a friend who might be in a different department that might know about it. The process, like I said earlier, is to watch them, let them age, hit the 21 days, which is supposed to be the policy for auto cancellation if the customer doesn't cancel it first. And then after 30 days is actually what the real policy is, from what they've told me, is when you can actually push to file your cases to have each order be cut a ticket internally one by one to be canceled. Even if you tell them flat out, this is not something that should have been over ordered, we're discontinuing it, it's never going to be fulfilled. It doesn't matter. It still has to go through that kind of waiting loophole with Amazon. It's very frustrating.
And, imagine it's how frustrating it is for you and your team. One order at a time, you have to, this is terrible.
That's what they've said their process is, yeah.
That is a broken process. A couple of stunning things just to recap. You said that a lot of the FBA team doesn't even know this program exists. Wow. You worked at Amazon. Is that normal?
Yes and no. It just depends on what happened. You have a lot of churn at Amazon, so it could have been where in 2019, all of the associates were trained on it. It was something that everyone was aware of. Maybe a lot of questions came up. They said that there were only 2 tickets cut for in-stock head start at that point, which were both of my calls. And that there were no prior complaints. So I'm kind of wondering if the other sellers haven't caught on yet, and they're not looking at how much money is sitting in these pending orders and how many are being canceled and not being returned because they're having a bad experience or they bought it elsewhere. It's quite significant. So we've audited the top 10 of our clients that are heavily impacted, Jason, and it's about $100,000 sitting in a pending bucket for either FBA reasons, just not shipping and it's in stock, or it's in stock head start. And it's either an item that, hasn't been received or stuck in receiving. And so it was sold, even though it's not technically available to be fulfilled, or it's something we're never going to fulfill. It's very frustrating because it does impact your sales numbers
Yeah.
We're looking into whether or not it impacts your inventory forecast and your algorithms there. But again, no insight from Amazon as to what they're going to do about it, how it's feeding into the systems, and how to appropriately address how to cancel these items that should never have been purchased.
Well, listeners and viewers, rest assured that Malia is not going to rest until somebody over at Amazon with decision-making power understands what these two big problems are. My hope, Malia, is that this is just a hiccup in the FBA system, but it's alarming. Just every account we look at, both of these problems are happening. You know, going back to an earlier question about cancellations, I can't remember if it was an in-stock or an out-of-stock with this in-stock Head Start program or not, but we reached out to Amazon, and I think the total cancellation rate on these orders was about 8%. Do you remember what the Amazon folks told you about an 8% cancellation rate? Can you share that?
They said it was appropriate and it was acceptable.
It was appropriate and acceptable to have nearly 10% of the shoppers not get what they ordered. That is not customer obsessed, Amazon. This is a real big problem. I'm still shocked and appalled at that comment. I mean, can you imagine 10 years ago getting a response like that? 5 years ago getting a response like that? There's just no way. So I hope that that's not something that's trickling down from Andy Jassy's red pen, that this isn't causing some of these problems. So let's talk about what can a seller do? Let's start with the first issue, Malia. Okay, you're in stock. You go and look at your FBA orders, or maybe you don't even, like you said, you never had to look at FBA orders before. You just trusted that it just worked beautifully. Is that the first thing that sellers need to do? Go look. See if you yourself have any pending orders.
Yeah, definitely. Check out what the average used to be, what it is now, the age of it. That should be telling in itself. And then troubleshoot, like, why? Like, where is this inventory sitting? Is it something that you haven't sold in 5 years? Well, that's really problematic. And then, turn off in-stock Head Start. And I'm sorry, but from our deep dives, it's not beneficial. The long game is to just stay in stock. And if you need help managing that, we are more than we are more than willing to help you manage that FBA inventory and not rely on a wild algorithm.
Great advice, Malia. So first of all, go see if you're being affected by this. What if you are? What if you see that you're in stock, but you've got a lot of pending orders there? What's the next steps that a seller should take? Do they have to file an individual ticket on individual orders, truly?
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of reporting. So you're going to want to pull your reporting section out, what's impacted, how it's impacted. So kind of what we've already mapped out here at Avenue 7. And then have at it with Amazon, which is a game of whack-a-mole. Figure out which path will move the needle. If you don't have the time or the bandwidth, again, we should be able to help.
Yeah, Amelia, it's funny. I'm gonna have to share with our listeners and viewers the conversation you and I had about the in-stock Head Start program, because you came at me hard and said we've got to turn this thing off, and I was like, well, wait a minute, I really want that rank. It can't be that bad. And then I had to say, folks, I say this a lot to Malia. I had to say, you were right, Malia. We need to turn this off. And really, our calculation was, we know that we're going to lose rank. And look, at the end of the day, if you're a seller, you need to stay in stock anyway. You need to do whatever you need to do to improve your projections, which your team is great at, Malia, making sure that the sellers are in stock in the first place. Now, mistakes happen and there's hiccups, but that's the number one thing. If you stay in stock all the time appropriately, you don't have to worry about this. But you should turn it off, because we saw a situation where we're working with the client. We have a sales projection goal to reach. We think we're totally on track to reach that goal. And these aren't actual numbers, but I'll use this as an example. We looked at the sales orders from today, and it was $45,000. And then a week or 2 weeks later, we go back to today's sales, and that $45,000 became $30,000. There was almost like $15,000 a day that was starting to evaporate because of all these pending orders that were getting canceled each and every day. That creates a lot of downstream problems. You don't know how much inventory you're supposed to send into FBA. It throws your projections off. You think you're doing fine. Maybe you're leaving your ad campaigns and your conversion rate optimization alone. You're not doing anything. But then when that sales evaporate, you're like, WTF, what do I do now? So I completely agree with you now, Malia. And yes, you were right. I was wrong. The in-stock Head Start program is dead to us. and it should be dead to you. Turn that thing off. Again, I think it was a well-intended program that has run amok, and I just can't help but think again and again, Andy, did you fire the team that's responsible for this? Recently I was quoted in The Information, a great story written by the folks at The Information about the small business program, about how all these small business badges were being placed on sellers of brands that were like billion-dollar brands, and they were not small businesses at all. And it's almost like the team wasn't there anymore to make sure and manage this program. It's just sort of run amok. That's two examples just in the last 3 weeks where we've seen this happen. I believe in Amazon. I do. I believe in what it does for sellers, but this is bad. It's too soon to tell whether the cost-cutting strategies are what's broken this FBA system or if it's going to last, but I'm really worried about these issues. I'm worried about the perception from the prime shopper that's so important, and I'm really concerned about sellers' businesses if they don't manage this.
In hindsight, Jason, I think the in-stock Head Start program, and just thinking out loud, it might have been a way for Amazon to cover their butts when they have receiving issues or pauses. So it allows it to be for sale, and it's not dinging the seller because they're letting them sell it, knowing that it's coming in, but it's kind of like a delayed messaging system. I feel like it's a way that they covered themselves, and now it's just not working. So we see in like Q3, Q4, when you have the issues of, the backlog, the huge holiday backlog, where they can never scale. They have, loads and loads of products sitting on the dock. But these sellers want their items for sale. They want them to rank. To me, this sounded like a band-aid solution to allow sellers to sell if they had incoming, if it was sitting on the dock, but just not checked in and received, where they could still rank and sell. So when Amazon did catch up, it could go out. But I don't think anyone had paid attention to the cancellations. We do see a large cancellations in Q1, right? I'm kind of wondering now, is this part of that compounded issue of in-stock Head Start? And it's kind of something interesting that we are probably going to dive into.
There's some fire to that smoke for sure, Malia. And, it's no coincidence that this was launched in October of 2019 to address a lot of pressure. This is pre-COVID, of course, is when this program launched. But, there's a ton of volume that comes in. If you're just a numbers geek, right? And you forget about the customer for a second, which is not something Amazon is supposed to do, but you come in and you say, hey, Mr. Jassy, I've got this great idea. Let's turn the in-stock Head Start program on for everything. Yeah, we're going to get some cancellations, but there's going to be 10% of those orders that are going to actually turn into revenue that you wouldn't have had otherwise. That's a big line item on their revenue. The problem is it doesn't meet those leadership principles. It's not customer obsessed, and it's really pissing off prime shoppers. And I think there's a lot to what you're saying, Malia. I think you're going to learn more. We'll have to have you back on to talk more as you unpack this beast. It's a little bit like peeling off the cover of the baseball and sorting out all the individual color threads into individual stacks. It's a beast. I know that you'll continue your escalations with Amazon to alert them to this problem. Hopefully folks will listen to this podcast and do something about this, because this is, in my opinion, if not resolved quickly, the FBA problem could become an existential threat to the Amazon business in general. It could hurt a lot of sellers, which is my big issue. So any final thoughts, Malia, before I let you go?
I just hope that we figure out the root cause and Amazon will come to the table to truly be a partner and resolve the issue.
Oh, that's a big ask, Malia, but I'm with you. I totally agree. Just to recap, folks, Amazon Prime and FBA are showing signs of breaking. Is it a cold or is it a long-term disease? We'll find out. We're seeing a number of programs where no one appears to be minding the store, like with the small business badge that we talked about previously, the FBA program, this in-stock Head Start program that we have now turned off for every one of our clients. Is the cost cutting getting too deep? Are we hurting and affecting our Prime delivery promise? Is Amazon making false advertising claims with that Prime badge and that 2-day delivery promise? I don't know the answers to those questions, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm really worried. I'm worried for the sellers and the brands that make Amazon what it is, and we need Amazon to act quickly. Lastly, if you're ready to start growing and protecting your brand on Amazon with a team of experienced, amazing Amazon operators like Malia Kim and her team, you can visit us at day2podcast.com. If you know of anyone else who would gain value from this podcast, please share it with them. Thank you for listening and happy selling.